Downtown Tulsa has a parking problem, or at least so I've heard. People have told me they don't like going downtown because they can't find anywhere to park. So, I decided to go and see for myself.
I think there might be a spot over there.
Upon closer inspection, it seems like Tulsa might actually have too much parking. Today, we're going to take a look at how this came to be, why this is a problem, and a few things the city could do to try and fix it. Welcome to eryngo.urbanism. I mean, look at all these parking lots. Look at all these empty street spots. Look at this empty parking garage. Apparently, people have known about all of these parking spots since 2013, when Tulsa was awarded the Golden Crater Award by Streets Blog. That's where you can find this iconic comment from Brent.
You don't see a full-sized Home Depot with parking in the city's downtown very often.
There it is. By the way, today is literally Black Friday, and this parking lot is not full. Newsflash, it wasn't always like this. This used to look like this. There were buildings, there were trees, there were walkable streets. There was even a regional train station and a network of streetcar lines, all of which we can hopefully talk more about in future videos. But how did all those things get replaced with parking lots? Well, we required it, of course. That kind of smart, walkable, mixed-use urbanism is illegal to build.
Downtown Tulsa has no parking requirements, and in fact, it's one of the few that hasn't had parking requirements ever.
Wait, hang on. Did you catch that? In a recent poll, you guys told me that the one thing that you would do to fix downtown parking is to eliminate minimum parking requirements. What he just said to me is that here in downtown Tulsa, a city which has literally turned itself into a parking crater, those parking requirements have never existed.
It was always understood downtown was unique or different in the way it was built out, and it didn't mandate parking. Obviously, looking at a map, you can see that that didn't prevent parking from being constructed in downtown. In fact, we have an abundance in downtown, specifically surface parking lots.
Clearly, at least in Tulsa, these non-existent requirements are not the cause of the problem.
For a while, downtown property values weren't nearly as high as they are today, and I think that let people kind of sit on their lots and think, maybe someday they'll be worth more, and for now, I'll just lease it to American Parking and they'll make me some revenue, and that's how I'll use that land for the time being.
But really, are these parking lots even a problem? I mean, they're not hurting anyone, right? They're just there. Well, first of all, old buildings were torn down to make way for these lots. And according to Jane Jacobs, cities need old buildings so badly it's probably impossible for vigorous streets and districts to grow without them. It takes a lot of money to build new buildings, and for people who are looking for space to start a small community-focused business, like a restaurant or coffee shop, new construction is hardly ever a decent option. Now, obviously, we can't go back in time and build more buildings or prevent these demolitions, but what we can do is protect the old buildings that we still have and keep them from meeting the same fate. Another issue with parking lots is their environmental impacts. The urban heat island effect, for example, is worsened by large patches of asphalt. And you probably know this intuitively. On the hottest day of the summer, I guarantee that one of the last places you want to hang out is in the middle of a parking lot. Water drainage is another environmental problem created by parking lots, since they prevent water from seeping into the ground as it would in nature. Any stormwater that lands on them is instead diverted into the city's stormwater management system, meaning you, the taxpayer, will probably have to deal with the consequences of this. Also, parking lots just simply interrupt the walkable urban fabric of a place. Imagine you work 2 blocks away from a cool restaurant. It's about a 10-minute walk, and along the way, you pass through a park and walk past a bookstore, another restaurant, and a coffee shop. That sounds reasonable and maybe even leisurely. Now imagine the exact same scenario, except this time it's a 10-minute walk through one big parking lot. Let's be honest, at that point, you're just gonna drive. I could go on, but I think you get the picture. There is a problem, and most of you already knew this. On that poll that I posted, only 1% of you said that downtown parking is fine how it is. So since we're all on the same page, let's look through some of the other suggestions on this poll and see if any of those are really decent solutions to the issue at hand. This is the least popular solution in the poll, but to a typical Tulsan, building more parking garages actually seems like a decent option. Hear me out. You want to increase density? You want to get rid of surface parking lots? Great, me too. They're ugly and terrible. So let's redevelop all of the surface lots into housing, offices, you name it. But now, in order to bring in more people, we still have to replace all of the parking spots we got rid of, plus we have to add in more on top of that to accommodate any new people coming in. So clearly, parking garage is a great solution. There's two huge problems with this approach. It's a big waste of money and space. Sure, garages are slightly better than surface lots. They provide shade, they can accommodate other uses above or below them, and they can look slightly interesting. But these are still huge chunks of space in the city that are not financially productive or particularly useful at all. There's an armchair urbanist video that explains this well.
That's a lot like saying, "Ah yes, the solid turd is definitely better than the diarrhea." Yes, it's a correct statement, but if that's your vision of the future, it's lazy and incredibly car-brained.
You've already seen it? Great. So it seems clear to me, as it does to you guys as well, that increasing or simply rearranging the amount of parking spots will not fix this problem. Park and ride is the next logical step. Imagine, instead of driving like 10 miles to go all the way into downtown with your car, instead, you just drive a mile or two to a nearby train station, park in a garage there, and the train does the rest. Then you can redevelop all of those parking lots downtown into mixed-use buildings and not have to worry about accommodating as many cars. Problem solved, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that this might not exactly go down like that. Multimodal travel is great, but when a typical person hops in a car, they're probably just going to want to take that car all the way to their destination. Having to park, navigate a train station, wait for a train, and ride to the destination are all seen as extra steps and additional inconveniences. In the spirit of outsourcing these explanations, here's another video you've already seen where RM Transit explains how not to design park and ride systems.
We act like North America does all these wild and crazy things. And to some extent that is true. We do things to a level that other places do not.
That being said, it is an approach, and potentially one that can start to actually solve this downtown parking problem, especially if plans are put in place to eventually transition those park and ride stations to transit-oriented development. Okay, so we've already made it to the nuclear option. Let's just ban surface parking. Or better yet, let's ban all street-facing parking, meaning if you're going to build a parking garage, it must be either below grade, behind a building, or above some street-facing shops. In fact, as you just saw, all of those approaches can already be seen in downtown Tulsa. Is a total ban too heavy-handed? Too much government control? Well, we already have a ton of very specific zoning requirements, so if we're gonna make the rules around parking more strict, we could balance that out, for example, by loosening restrictions on what kind of uses are allowed downtown to make things like mixed use and residential development easier to implement. It's clear to me, and I hope it is to you as well, that these parking lots have got to go. We need housing, offices, shops, plazas, and parks, not more asphalt wasteland. And it sounds like some of this could be happening organically.
We've almost passed that moment in time where those were going to be the most valuable thing you could have downtown, and we're heading in the direction of these parking lots are going to get developed because they're not mandated for anyone, and a building with uses or housing or something else is ultimately going to pay out more to someone who owns that land than a surface parking lot.
There's a lot more to discuss on this topic, so you should join my Discord to dive deeper into the details with everyone over there. It's a lot of fun, and the discussions over there will help shape the direction of my future videos. Link in the description.
So the real solution is walkable mixed-use infill development, something that is less car-centric and doesn't even require these parking lots in the first place. And that's really important in an urban context, but it's also possible to provide that in a more suburban context, somewhere far away from downtown. And if you want to see what that could potentially look like, here is a video that you might be interested in watching.
Thank you guys so much for the support. We've just achieved YouTube monetization, and I've already received quite a bit of support over on Patreon. I want to give an extra special thanks to Jake Arendt, my first VIP patron. If you'd like to help support the production of future videos, please check out my Patreon, link in the description. See you soon!